Hola! Welcome to my latest video book review. I am John Lee, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the book $1 Billion Whale by Tom Wright. So, $1 Billion Whale is the story of Jho Low, who was able to defraud the Malaysian government of over $7.5 billion, partied with famous people like Leonardo DiCaprio, ended up laundering millions, hundreds of millions of dollars all over, had the best boats, the best parties, ended up dating Miranda, Kerr, and best of all, got off scot-free. So in the year where we've had bad blood, where we've had Elon Musk's trouble with the DOJ and SEC, it seems like fraud is in the air. And $1 Billion Whale is about one of the biggest, if not the biggest, frauds of all time, where Jho Low defrauded the Malaysian government with the help of the Prime Minister and his wife, who was very much like Esmeralda Marcos. She loved handbags, unlike how Marcos loved shoes. And basically, they were able to set up this fund, this government-funded fund, and with help from the Middle East and from Goldman Sachs, they defrauded $7.5 billion, swung an election, produced the movie Wolf of Wall Street with Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio, and only the Prime Minister ended up going to jail. So this is a really fun read. I don't know that it's particularly useful unless you're planning on setting up a global fraud in another country, but it's a really great read. I ended up reading it on the flight to LaunchCon all the way through. I think it's almost 400 pages, and you would just be amazed by the boldness and by the fact that there really aren't controls at the upper level of finance other than do something that makes money. So let's get into my three big takeaways. Takeaway number one, bankers are still shady as fuck, right? The global financial crisis happened, they crashed the market, they got off scot-free. Those are just straight up facts. And enter Goldman Sachs again into this fraud to lend legitimacy through the persona of one Tim Lesner, who is now married to Kimora Lee Simmons, Russell Simmons' former wife, and lives in a $24 million house in Beverly Hills. So he clearly, paid the price, got millions of dollars in fees, and was used for the Goldman's name by Jho Low to legitimize much of this straight-up fraud. Push it through, right? It's really amusing because in the book, they go from different accounting firms because all the accounting firms eventually figure out that this is just fraud. And even when they sign off on it, they leave little notes, which I guess is not really commonly done. But yeah, so Goldman Sachs, still shady, still out here basically being criminals. Number two, shell corporations, lookalikes, and the British Virgin Isles. So if you ever wanted to know what the mechanics of international fraud look like, this is what it looks like. And one of the things that Jho Low did that was really brilliant was this use of lookalike companies. So I don't want to get into the names because I don't remember them, number one, and because they're all very specific and Middle Eastern. But he basically started dealing with some Saudi Arabian guys, and if the name of the company was like Saudi Fund, they would call it Saudi Fund 1, and it would have the same officers because the people who had the legitimate fund were involved in this fraud as well. So to the naked eye, it would look like a subsidiary of a legit company, even though it was owned entirely by Jho Low through these shell corporations in the British Virgin Islands. And there's a specific type of ownership where they don't even ever need to reveal it. Jho also used lawyer-client privilege to kind of protect money laundering as well, because there's a specific type of lawyer-client privilege that protects money laundering. So all of that stuff, the mechanics of how this fraud works, very, very, very interesting. And number three, so this is kind of interesting, but Noah Tepperberg and Jason Strauss, the guys who own the Lavo Group, or whatever they call it, Tao Group, these guys basically got launched in their business by Jho Low having these elaborate $30 million parties during the financial crisis when no one else had money. So this is one of those examples of a time where you look at the success of a business and you go, wow, Noah Tepperberg and Jason Strauss, they're like nightclub impresarios, right? They're like titans of the nightclub industry, except the thing that launched their business was this one dude who had hundreds of millions of dollars in fraudulent money and wanted to burn it in order to build social status, right? So it's one of those things where you can look at their business and go, yeah, they're great at what they do, or you could look at their business and say, yeah, they got really lucky that this dude decided to party in their clubs and they became friends with him. So that's always interesting when you look at very, very successful businesses. Anyway, that is my review of Billion Dollar Whale. It's really a fun read. I don't know that it's super educational unless you are really trying to be an international fraudster. But I give it 5 out of 5 stars because once you start reading it, you will not want to put it down. So definitely check it out. Tom Wright and his partner, Brad something, did an incredible job with their investigative research, incredible job tracking this stuff down, and it's a really, really fun, really interesting read. So highly recommend it if you're looking for a fun book that is slightly business and fraud related.